You're going to have the haters, right? You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate. Haters are going to hate. Haters are going to hate. Haters are going to hate.
What's up, everybody? Hold on. Let me make sure that sometimes I get ahead of myself. All right, I don't want to play that again. Okay, good enough. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the lab. I'm your host, Joshua Diaz. D-I something. Can't remember. Anyway, so welcome to the lab. I'm your host again. Your faceless host. I forgot how to spell my last name. Is it D-I-A-S or is it D-I-A-Z? I don't know. But one thing I do know.
Haters are going to hate.
That's a fact. Oh, God. It's like my favorite. One of my favorite things I've ever heard.
You're going to have the haters, right?
It's the best. It's the Gulf of Diaz. Yeah, that's right. All right, let me say hi. It's so good. It's so good. I had to go back and find it. And that's right. What's happening? Not giving you, well, it seems like your name might be out there already. I know I got them all. What's up, ICU? Joshua Mysterioso. I like that name. So, Miss Sturry. We got Donna in the house. What's up, Donna? Michelle. Does that come from is that possibly from what's that movie called? What is that movie called? I think it's Dodgeball. Like Laser, a Blazer, Michelle. It was like the big buff black dude was Michelle. Remember that? Well, I do. I remember it. That's what's important. If you can dodge a wrench, you can dodge a ball. To this day, that is just not something that I agree with. Okay, so let me just address the elephant in the room. I've been getting it sent to me all day. I'm aware of the allegations against JLR. I'm aware of the protection order. I'm aware. I'm not comfortable going over it until there's any sort of official charges filed, and then I probably will. But, you know, it's just, it is what it is right now. But him and his ex-girlfriend apparently have some sort of domestic situation, and it happened back in December. Okay. So it just seems like it's a terrible thing. And yeah, it's all over the internet, and it's not something that like I said, I'm not going to get into it right now, because the case is still being adjudicated. And I don't think it's fair to anybody. Now, let me just make one thing clear. How I feel about domestic violence is kind of goes without saying. So we'll just let it play out. And that's it. That's it. It's just, like I said, I don't know. I don't have all the facts. So since I don't have all the facts, I'm not going to speculate. I don't know what's going to happen. Pretty much that's it. So anyway, that is that. Haters are going to hate, like Nano said. And who knows more about haters than Sheriff Nanos? Come on down. God, dude, these
haters are going to hate.
They are. What up, Joe V? It's good to see you.
You're going to have the haters, right?
I love
You're going to have the haters, right?
They're just going to hate, dude. They hate. Sheriff Nonads. Oh, man. I've been trying to be more active in my comment section after the show. And which is good and bad. But like some lady just roasted me. He roasted my chestnuts on an open fire. And I was like, damn, lady, that wasn't. If I didn't like the way that somebody did their show, I don't think that I would write an entire soliloquy or I don't know, just maybe I would, but I've never felt the need. But I'll just read it to you. It's pretty good, actually. I mean, eating my salad. Gross. Here, I'll read it to you. It's good stuff. It's good stuff. All right. Okay, here we go. Here we are. I try to watch this show, and when it stays on track, I really enjoy it. However, when the video stops for unrelated topics, such as what kind of car the sheriff drives, it makes it hard to focus on the topic. Sometimes the side conversations last long periods of time, and I just give up and leave. I made it 39 minutes on this video. That's awesome. And then I responded with, surprised you made it that far. Only 38 minutes. It was like a 3-hour show. Oh man, that was fun. That was so funny. I mean, what do you want me to do? I mean, it's, I got to have a little flair to the show, I guess. I mean, by the way, that was probably the most on topic sidebar that I did last night. I was all over the place last night. At least it was sort of case related. At least we're talking. I mean, I was everywhere. Anyway, whatever, dude. Yeah, I'll send her a refund. She made it 39 minutes and 2 people liked it. I'm going to like it and I'm going to heart it. Somebody wrote good job. Somebody responded, said good job to her. Good job. Also, there were people that very much agreed with the chest and vest thing. They're confused about it too. So I'm not the only one. I'm not the only one. See that 39 minutes. That's it. 39 minutes. God. Look, the show's not for everybody. I'll be the first to tell you that. Sometimes like different formats, but fine. I don't care. It's sad. It's sad. Anyway, first, before we get into the Nancy Guthrie stuff, I do want to talk a little bit about this young man that whose body was just, I believe, found today. And golly, 20-year-old. This feels like Natalie Holloway 2.0 all over again, except this time now they have a body. And if this is foul play, it's going to be so messy with the jurisdiction, the way that the way that these crimes are investigated. It's going to be it's not going to, it's, first of all, it's already not good. It's an international incident. And when 20-year-olds go overseas to countries that have, most other countries, their drinking ages are, I believe most of them are 18, and which is fine if that's where you grow up. If that's where you grow up and sort of accustomed to, okay. But when you have kids, and I believe this young man was 20, when they go overseas, they party. They go out at night. They think it's like America, and it's not at all. It's a very different culture. People react very differently. Some people don't like Americans, believe it or not. And now more than ever. And you got to really keep your wits about you. And it's very sad, and so I don't know I don't know much about this case yet, but I'm going to play a little bit of Long Crime talking about it because I am curious about it. And Linda, thank you so much. I appreciate you saying that. I know. I actually I don't get upset about it, to be honest. I think it's funny though. Well, do you pay attention a lot to Spain, Rusty? Did he? Yeah. I don't really don't get me wrong, the United States is very dangerous, but it's just a different culture. So you know, when you're not from around there, it can be a little different. But out of the loop. It's most of the call-in show. Oh God. You missed the call-in show. All right, let's delve into this a little bit, and then we will talk about Nancy Guthrie as well. But I am curious about this, and I will be stopping it to give commentary.
News, and it is the update that no one was hoping for in the search for the missing American college student.
You know, today I actually had a hangnail, and I was like, damn, I have a hangnail. What do I do? So I went and got some, some shears, I guess you could say. And it was rough.
Last seen in the early hours of the morning outside a club.
Also, I was thinking about what kind of a weed whacker I should get. I'm going to get a weed whacker.
In Barcelona. Police have confirmed that
I don't know if I'm going to get them, if it's going to be battery operated or I'm trying to, what are we? Ma'am, if you end up watching this, I hope you only make it in 18 minutes. I'm going to get probably a battery operated one. That way I don't have to do the mix, the 2-in-1 oil, gasoline. Let us know how far you make it this time. So, anyway. Also, Macho pissed on my neighbor's very expensive plant, right in front of him. Pat the roof walker, very expensive plant.
Body of James Jimmy Gracey has been found. What we know about what happened and the questions still unanswered at this point. We're on the case presented by Law and Crime. I'm Chris Stewart.
Haters gonna hate, dog.
Police.
It was embarrassing. I was humiliated.
Police in Barcelona in the last couple of hours say they located a body in the water not far from the nightclub where Jimmy Gracey was last seen. And just as we are recording this, police have confirmed that it is the body of Jimmy Gracey. Now, it is unclear how Jimmy died and the circumstances surrounding his death. An autopsy will be performed to confirm that information. Jimmy was last seen around 3 o'clock in the morning on Tuesday outside a club called Foco on the beach in Barcelona. He is originally from the Chicago area. He went to the University of Alabama, and he was in Barcelona visiting friends who were studying abroad, and he was there for spring break. Now, he somehow got separated from his friends who were also at this club. They end up back at their Airbnb, and then Jimmy never returned. And that is when this search began. And then in the early evening hours today in Barcelona on Thursday, Fox News is reporting there was a worker at a marina that sits adjacent to the nightclub that is right on the beach in Barcelona. And that worker flagged down police because apparently they had seen something. That area was roped off. And shortly after, police said they found a body. They put the announcement out on social media that the body was that of Jimmy, and that part of this story was made official. Joining us now to talk about the latest developments in this case is Phil Waters, retired homicide detective. Thank you for being with us. Definitely not the outcome that anybody was hoping for when this story first broke earlier this week. But police in Barcelona confirming, quote, they have confirmed that the person found dead is James Gracey, the 20-year-old boy who went missing on Tuesday in Barcelona. I know that there's been some reports out there that, El Periodico, which is an outlet in Barcelona, saying their sources are saying they believe that this was a drowning. We don't know for sure. What's the process now in a case like this? What will investigators do now that they've confirmed that this body that was found in a marina not far from the nightclub is actually James Gracey?
Well, it's good to be with you, Chris. Sorry it's on such a somber topic, but so what happens now? I'm sure I would imagine the authorities there have already tried to trace his movement. He apparently went missing around 3 a.m. in the morning and was seen talking with a young unidentified female. So now we have the wallet recovery. Now all of a sudden we've got his recovery. And I think the first thing that the detectives are going to look at is, number one, is there any trauma on the body that would suggest that he was murdered? And was this simply tox tests that come back, of course, are going to tell the tale on any level of intoxication and what he was intoxicated on, if he was. So trying to further explain how he ends up in the water. If there's no signs of trauma on the body and the autopsy doesn't result in anything other than a drowning as the cause of death, then this is certainly reminiscent of the young man in Nashville.
That's what I was
that left a bar, got separated from his friends, walked down the river, and ended up in the water. And there were some of the things that he had.
So, but for some reason, it sounds like local authorities are saying that they think that there is foul play. And Quentin, I addressed that at the very beginning of the show. So if you just rewind a little, I'm not being rude or anything. I promise you, I did talk about it just a little bit. So you can check that out. It's at the very beginning. So I don't know.
Had what they were found. So that is what this is kind of reflecting at this point in time. It's the same kind of tragedy, just in a different location. And but again, they'll get that cleared up at the autopsy, whether or not this was an accident or whether this was a homicide.
You know, I remember that case in Nashville well, and I also remember there was one last year on spring break, and it was an American college student in the Dominican Republic, and she ends up going to the beach late at night with a guy, and her body was never found. And I think in this case, I mean, I know like where the bar here is located. There's kind of this marina, a couple jetties, so it might be a little bit more of an enclosed area where I think that was more like open water. But I mean, how common is it in cases like this that you actually do, especially thinking like you're dealing with the ocean? How hard can it be to find a body typically? And that you have something like this where, apparently it was early evening hours in Barcelona today, a worker at a marina saw something and then flagged police down.
Well, it's all about the tides. I have actually been to that port, and those clubs along there, I mean, they are right there on the water. They're I'm sure there's railings and that kind of thing that protect them from it, but we don't know when that body falls in the water, especially on the ocean side of things. It's all about the tides, and at what point in time did they fall in, and then where was it taken, and then where does it end up coming in? And I don't know. I know it's designating a specific beach.
Here's one of the things about these sorts of situations that I sort of loathe in these cases, mostly because of, a young man has passed away. But if this comes back and they say that it's an accident, there's going to be an overwhelming amount of people that will not buy it. They just won't. For whatever reason.
There where the body was recovered, I do not know what the distance is from the recovery site to that club. So that will be interesting to see. But I think it's, and then where was the wallet found? So all of these things, they'll be looking at the proximity, putting together a timeline, and trying to explain what happened here to this young man.
Yeah, and I think I'm just seeing now, here's a statement from the family. I'm just going to read real quickly. We're so grateful for the kindness and concern that has been shown for our family during this incredibly difficult time. We have made the decision to pause media interviews at this time to focus on being together and caring for one another. Thank you for respecting our privacy and holding our family in your thoughts and prayers. We will share updates if and when we're able. You really feel, for this family that had to fly, to Europe to try and help find their son, and for this being the outcome at this point. Big clue that came out, and there's still a lot of questions surrounding it, is the cell phone, because somehow law enforcement, when James was missing, his cell phone was found, and reportedly it was found with someone who had been arrested. And we don't know what the circumstances are surrounding that, as far as, maybe it was a pickpocket, which does happen in Europe, as well as a lot of other places around the world. But what did you make of that part of the reporting, and what kind of information might law enforcement be able to get from a cell phone as they try and piece together what happened?
Well, there is a possibility that there may be some sort of documentation, videos, pictures, that kind of thing on the phone itself. Now, the individual that's got it, of course, the big question is, how does he get it? Or he or she. I don't think they've identified the sex of the person that was arrested. So again, this is all part of the investigation. Is the cell phone in the possession of this person? Is that secondary to what happened to him? And so that will be determined, of course. That person being arrested, I don't know the law in terms of detaining and arresting people in Spain, but that may have been a part of their process, that they're arresting that person, taking them to the police station for an interview. Let's determine where they got the phone from, and then follow the leads backwards from that person that they're interviewing.
This may be, it may end up being a situation where it's a drowning, and he was just separated from friends, and he goes down to the beach, and sadly, it was the early hours of the morning. Don't know if he was intoxicated, was at a nightclub and all of that. This next question, it's hard to ask, but, can you tell that there's trauma just visually looking at a body that's been in the waters since potentially Tuesday? Like, how do you determine if it was a drowning? I know an autopsy will, but what are some of the things that you're able to see on a body when it washes up ashore, like apparently what happened here?
Well, that's a good question, Chris. If there is trauma, when I'm talking about trauma on the body, I'm talking about anything. It could be a bruise, it could be a laceration, that kind of thing. Could be a bullet wound, could be a knife wound. You're looking for, it could be things bruising around the neck area, which would indicate a possible strangulation or a ligature of some kind. So those are the things that they're going to be looking at when the detectives make the scene, looking at.
Sam, let's see here. Great. Riley Strain, 22, drowned last year in Nashville. he got kicked out of Luke's bar. I remember that. He was visiting Nashville with his fraternity. A young man separated from his friends in the early hour of the morning after leaving a bar alone near a body of water goes missing. This happens all the time around the world regularly. Very sad. You know, I don't know how regularly it happens or not. I would take your word for it. It wouldn't surprise me that this happens. I think that it's entirely possible that the phone, depending on how drunk this young man was, and if he was drunk, this could be they could be these two situations could be separate, meaning this young man could have been so drunk and somebody took advantage of him, pickpocketed him, and then he was lost. And fell into the water or something. I mean, that does happen. So, the stealing of the phone could have nothing to do with it, or it could have everything to do with it. But I don't know. I'm just speculating. I hate to really give a guess.
Is there something that just stands out? And is it something
I believe somebody, did they say somebody got arrested for the phone thing?
That would be different than, let's say, falling into the water, smacking your head on a post under the water, or a rock, or some sort of hard surface. And so that's going to be much different, of course, than if it looks like there's bruising that was used with a blunt instrument or that kind of thing. So and again, those things will be determined at the autopsy. So if you've got let's just say, for the sake of our discussion here, you have a blow to the head that is readily visible, then the determination will be to see if we can, what kind of a tattooing effect that may have left. Does it look like it may be an instrument of some kind, or does it look like a blow again to a post, to a rock or something like that, another hard surface? And those things will just have to be determined at the autopsy. I mean, if there's something obvious, a bullet hole or something like that, but I haven't read anything where there's any indication that, gunshots were heard at that time of the night and that kind of thing. So it just remains to be seen what the autopsy reveals.
It does seem like with some of the reporting, because there was the report that came out Wednesday out of that media outlet in Barcelona that foul play was suspected, and it seemed like they were walking that back today. And it seemed like they were starting to focus a little bit more on the water, starting to hear some witnesses say that they saw him go down to the beach. And then it seemed like it was going in that direction where this potentially could just be a very, very tragic case of a drowning. How much does, when piecing together the timeline of all of this, does what happened before matter if you're heading down that path where it doesn't seem like there's foul play, but you're not trying to rule anything out? He's at this massive nightclub. Everybody, I'm assuming, shoulder to shoulder. His friends, it's unclear what the circumstances were where they decide to leave him, or not leave, but maybe they just get separated and they end up going home, can't find him. Oh, he must have gone with somebody else. We don't know. I mean, if this were to happen in the United States, and I'm sure some of the investigative stuff very similar to what happens overseas, how much does that part matter if the end result is this tragic accident?
Well, that's where you start to build the timeline. And so that is going to be important. So they're going to interview the friends. When did he get separated? Who did they see him talking to? Did they know that person? Has that person been identified? Which would, again, put the timeline into where he was. Did he, in fact, do they have CCTV coverage showing his movements? I know the young man in Nashville.
It is so important to stay together in these kinds of situations. I mean, it cannot be overstated how important it is to do everything in your ability to stay with your group, at least one person, if not more. I mean, it is so imperative and vital to your safety, especially when you're on vacation with your friends. It's just that there is, it's everything. It really is everything.
It was on the street, saw him going down the street by himself, headed in a certain direction, and he went around a road sawhorse that was set up there, obstruction that was set up there. So it won't, because that's such a rather small area. I mean, in terms of where he was, it should not be terribly difficult to put together that timeline. And then when he's down on the beach, if that's what we find out, that he was headed that direction, that would explain why he ends up there. Now, the other thing we got to remember too is the wallet. I'm curious as to where the wallet was found in relation to where the body was found, which may indicate something else. Now, if he went in the water at where the wallet was located, or if he went in the water along the way, and many times when bodies get in the water and it's a drowning and they're moving, the current's moving them through the water, sometimes, depending on how far they go, it will literally take their clothes off. So I know when we had the big flooding in Harvey, and we made every body that surfaced once the water had receded, and there were many of those, and we went out and made every one of them to make sure there were no signs of trauma, obvious signs of trauma. And it was amazing how shoes were removed, pieces of clothing were removed, pieces of articles in their pockets were gone, so that kind of thing. So that may be how this wallet ends up where it ends up. But these are all things that will have to be looked at and examined to explain where he went in and where he ended up. And then the results, of course, are going to be revealed in the autopsy.
When a body's been in water for even the 48 to 72 hours that we may be talking about in this case, when it comes to a toxicology test, are you still able to determine what was in somebody's system, even if they've been in that type of environment for that period of time?
I would think this period of time, they should be able to get some tox test, some tox results out of that, if not out of the blood itself, but out of the organs, perhaps. So if it's been in there for a long time, of course, there's going to be less likelihood that you're going to get an accurate tox test result. So, but I think given what we know, I think they should get something back that will hopefully reveal if there was any level of an intoxicant at all.
Holly, I know the case
and what it may have been. So I think they might be able to get something out of it that will, again, get us further to the answer of how did he end up in the water.
When it comes to the surveillance video footage, because just looking around that area, and I know you've been, to that beach and that spot. I mean, it's not a remote location. I mean, it's a very popular place. When you go to Barcelona, that's one of the places where a lot of people end up going to. How challenging is it to actually go through surveillance video in cases like this? I even think of that case in Nashville, to actually piece together, okay, we have this one person, they're on this street corner. I know for us on the outside, like we see the finished product when it's released to the media and we just think that it's okay, here's one video to the next, to the next, to the next. Like, what does that actually look like internally when you're starting from scratch? And I'm sure you have hours of footage, and in this case, a very populated area. Like, how do you actually figure out where this person is and where they're going?
Well, that's going to come down to the interviews with the friends. When did they get there? What time was it?
Wolf Rider. Happy 23 months. Bless it. It's almost 2 years.
How long did they stay there? There's what we've been told is that 3 a.m. is where he went missing, or around that time frame. So you do, and again, this goes back to your timeline. So we've got to start that timeline at when did they leave to go to the club? Did they go anywhere else before the club? Because you want to try to get a track of where they were at the beginning of the night, how they ended up there, and then what happened afterwards. So all of that stuff is going to be, again, I always talk about timelines because that's most important. And in terms of going through the video that may be available, because they're going to be able to establish specific times, that is going to pare down the amount of video that you're going to have to view. So once you get that time frame in, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be minimal, but there may be hours in depending on how many cameras they get a hold of and how much video that they actually have to look at. But I've done it. It's very tedious work, but it is something that's going to have to be done because we want to, this is all about now at this point, it's explaining to the family as best as the detectives can. This is what happened. This is what we believe happened. And this is what caused him to be recovered where he was.
And just a couple more for you, because on that note, if this is a case where there is no foul play, clearly if there was foul play, I mean, you keep investigating until there's an arrest and you figure it out. But like, at what point does, for a department, and in this case, the police in Barcelona, does the investigation stop? Where if there's no foul play, it appears to be a tragic accident. I'm sure the family will have so many questions. But at what point do you as an investigator say, like, okay, this is kind of the timeline that we believed happened. We don't believe that this is a crime. And this is the information we have. And then for you as an investigator, you have to go on to the next case for where there may be foul play. And I'm sure that that's a difficult decision at times in cases like this. But how does that typically work?
Well, it's like any investigation. So the detectives let the evidence lead them where they need to be. They don't take it some direction that they want it to go, and it's always a journey for the truth. So once as they get as close to the truth as they can possibly get, and now we have the ability, we have the evidence that we need to explain to the family what happened. If it was an accident, once this is going to be the ME's ruling is going to be a big deal in a case like this. So for the sake of our discussion, the ME rules it a drowning, an accidental death. Mm-hmm. Once that's communicated to the family, they're going to have questions. The detectives are going to show them everything they've got. I've done it before. It's horrible. It's really tough to do. But I can tell you that every family that I talk to in a situation like this appreciates just a straightforward, honest explanation about what happened to their loved one. And once that is done and the tests come back.
All right, chat, commenters, the lady that only made it 39 minutes the last show. If it comes back, if the medical examiner comes back and says that this is an accidental drowning, are you going to believe it? Are you going to take the medical examiner's word for it? Or not? Water in lungs would be a huge Water and lungs would be a huge clue. Yes.
Whatever processing that's been submitted to a lab. Once those things come back, you've got the ruling.
Well, I don't think that there'll be any. I don't know if you can get a second opinion. Maybe you can. I don't know.
You know what you have, and then at some point in time, the case will be closed. There's no other need to keep it open. The leads have been tracked down, and people have been interviewed. Evidence has been gathered, and now
I'm only asking, like, if you were the parents.
we have a conclusion to our investigation, and at that point in time, it will be closed. Now, the other side of that same coin is, if it turns out that he's ruled that he had some sort of trauma,
because there's still people that believe that Riley Strain was killed. And I remember it wasn't the first time that somebody had fallen into that river, and there was a certain amount of time that it took a body to surface, that they had this idea. It was some days later, and it did. And he did, unfortunately.
That caused him to go into the water. If we've got a really something that would indicate a blunt force instrument was used, say a club or some sort of like a hammer. I mean, something that has a distinctive mark on it, something that's linear, that was struck in the head with, or has some other kind of trauma on it. Then you're going to have an investigation into who did this thing.
I don't initially, my initial thoughts are that the cell phone and him in the water are unrelated. Josh, do you not think that either? Well, I mean, if he was killed and then thrown into the water, he wouldn't be breathing, so his lungs wouldn't have been filled up.
Trauma led to him falling in the water and drowning. That's still a murder. So then it's going to be.
And now look, if it comes back and he's been hit in the head or something like that, but without knowing that, no.
The case will not be closed until there is a suspect in custody, someone who is charged, and at least that's the way we do it in Houston. I'm not sure what the process is necessarily in Barcelona, but once you've got a suspect in custody, then it's awaiting a trial, charge, and so forth. So, and then that case will be closed once it's either someone in the custody or once it's adjudicated.
Yeah, just a terrible, terrible story, a terrible finish to a case that so many.
But whatever it is, I truly hope that I just truly hope the truth is found, and the family can get whatever closure that they can. I just don't know.
People were.
I don't think you move on.
Watching this week, Phil Waters, retired homicide detective. Thank you for helping us break this down, kind of understanding how these investigations go, especially now from here after the news that just came in about Jimmy Gracey. We appreciate your time.
And remember to keep the Gracey family in our prayers.
Just like the saddest. Let's see here.
Breaking news out of Barcelona on the search for a missing University of Alabama student. 20-year-old James Jimmy Gracey was visiting friends in Spain this week when he went missing around 3 a.m.
What a handsome young man who just looks like he's just full of life and just enjoying himself. It's such a terrible thing. It really is. I mean,
Tuesday morning from a beachfront nightclub. We've just learned that a body has been found in the waters by Spanish search teams who've been diving and searching by boat and air. News Nation Live anchor and senior correspondent Laura Engel joins us now with the latest. Laura, this is not news anyone wants to hear.
Oh, this is just terrible news, Nick. We're just getting this update within the last few minutes that divers have recovered a body in this very area where Jimmy Gracey went missing. But as you mentioned, police have yet to confirm the identity of the person that was pulled from the water by divers today. So you can imagine the time that that's going to take. This has just happened. Jimmy Gracey, as you mentioned, went missing on Tuesday in Barcelona, Spain, last seen leaving a beachside nightclub after spending the night out with his fraternity brothers on this spring break trip. The details of what happened next still remain unclear. Trying to drill down on what happened here because we've got these reports, Nick, that he was seen with another person leaving the bar. Unclear who that person is. We told you last hour that divers have been in the water searching for Jimmy Gracey near where he vanished. We have reached out to the police in Barcelona for comment. We have not heard back on the new development, only in the terms that they say that there was a body, but they just can't tell us anything more at this moment. And again, as we are continuing to work the story, we have reached out to many people, including the University of Alabama. They released a statement today saying that they are keeping Jimmy and his family at the forefront of their thoughts, and their staff are in direct communication with the family to offer every support and assistance as possible, and asking anyone with information to contact local authorities. Again, as we take a look at this map, we know that he was out. There were reports that a wallet was found, that his phone was found. All of those details really need to be confirmed by local authorities. We're in contact with Spanish News, a Spanish newspaper there as well, with reporters. We've been going back and forth all day working to confirm some of these details that are starting to come out. But again, a new tragic turn in the search for Jimmy as a body is found in this last hour. Now we wait. And remember, Nick, we heard yesterday that his father had flown into Barcelona. So we know that there's family there now waiting for this news. So hopefully he'll be able to assist.
Laura, keep us updated. Laura Engel with the latest. Laura, thank you so much.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download.
I'm sorry. I really didn't mean to do that. All right, let's take a look at one more.
We have a heartbreaking end to the search for Jimmy Gracey, the 20-year-old University of Alabama student who disappeared while on spring break in Barcelona. Spanish authorities have now confirmed a body that turned up this afternoon was his. He was found floating in the water near the beachfront nightclub where he was last seen alive. Investigators say surveillance video showed him leaving that nightclub with a stranger at around 3 a.m. Tuesday when he never...
I really like News Nation's coverage of stuff, but Fredo pisses me off because they know whoever runs their YouTube channel friggin' knows that it's too loud, and the little the little music that they play. I mean, it's enough already. Friggin' Fredo needs to sack up and knock it off and be like, hey guys, people don't like my Cuomo promo. I'm not going to say what else rhymes because it's not nice. It's bullshit. La da da da. Dude, look at this place. All right, sorry. Tiger got out of the cage, and I apologize about that.
Never came back to the Airbnb where he was staying with friends. The desperate search to find him drew international attention. Although there's no mystery now about the fate of Gracey, the investigation now turns to how he died and whether he's the victim of a crime. With spring break now in full swing, the tragedy is a sobering reminder of the potential dangers students can face traveling abroad, even for those like Gracey, who was athletic, 6'1", whose parents said he was, quote, always responsible. Our hearts go out to his family tonight. For more, Michael Matrenga joins us. He's a former Secret Service agent. We're also joined by Dr. Andrea Malkin-Brenner, who's a college transition educator. Thank you both. Michael, I've got a couple law enforcement questions, so I'll start with you. Jimmy had literally just arrived in Barcelona. He flew in Monday, went out Monday night with his friends, and then vanished overnight into Tuesday morning. I spoke to other college students who have been to that club, Shoko Club, and they told me it's a very large beach club right on the Strip. Mostly tourists go there. They say it's packed all the time. They put it way too packed, and there are lots of.
Hold on, I'm going to show you this really quick. So this is that club. The Shoko Barcelona club. So I mean, it's right there. I mean, the beach is very, very close. I don't know if there's any video footage. I would hope so. Oh, well, I mean, not if he was going swimming. They certainly do. Who's a douche? Cuomo?
Young adults, that there were lots of petty crime pickpockets around this club.
Yeah, I think condolences to the family. First of all, I have college kids. No one likes to think that these things can happen to their kids, but they absolutely can, even to the most responsible of kids. And we teach them right. But, unfortunately, I think we should wait and see what the investigation unfolds as to, how he possibly could have found himself in that water. I can recall multiple times being on presidential trips, one in particular, Brazil, Copacabana Beach. We're on the boardwalk. We're watching multiple American tourists come in and out of the clubs to the beach. Most of them were extremely intoxicated. And I'm not insinuating that's what happened, but what I'll tell you is that American kids of this age, though they have access to alcohol and these particular types of things here in the United States, it's a different culture. In some of these other countries, and they overindulge and they find themselves in these situations. And unfortunately for the Gracey family, they're going to be burying their child.
I said this exact same thing, but if you're going swimming, wouldn't you take off your clothes? I mean, I don't know. It depends what I'm wearing, I guess. Me, up until recently, I was a shirt on in the pool kind of guy.
And Michael, the focus now will be on whether or not there were any other injuries,
not anymore, baby,
as well as toxicology. I mean, because the other question in a packed, very crowded nightclub with a lot of people, could he have been drugged?
Correct. I'm curious to see if there's any blunt force trauma or any trauma to his body based upon the autopsy, or to see what the toxicology reports would be. That he may have fallen victim to, a recreational drug that he might not have ever used, that his body had an unusual reaction to. And so the toxicology reports and the autopsy reports will let us know if there was any foul play.
Yeah, and also, just before I get to Andrea, he was seen leaving the club at about 3 a.m. with a stranger. They're obviously going to be looking for that person to question them.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest dangers is that our kids in the United States.
So that makes it a little more suspicious. Who did he leave with? What do they know? When did they get separated? That could be a major problem, because people get cracked in the head and thrown in the ocean too.
Are not aware of some of these other dangers in other countries and the cultures, that what's acceptable, what's not acceptable behavior. And in a lot of ways, American kids are somewhat vulnerable because of their ability or inability to be able to determine when someone's taking advantage of them. So I hope that's not the case. Unfortunately, again, the Gracey family is going to have to deal with the tragic death of their child for a very long time.
Andrea, Michael brings up a good point. How much should families be concerned and warn their kids about as they go on these spring break trips? Spring break is happening right now. Lots and lots of families have kids who are going on these trips to other countries. I know I warned my son when he went on his spring break trip to be really street smart, and he's a New York City kid.
Thank you.
What about that cultural difference sometimes?
I mean, look, it's always a challenge parenting a young adult who's lived away from home and, believes that they are independent. I believe strongly that there are still non-negotiables. If we have parents who are involved in our college kids' lives, those would be sharing your travel documents.
Well, yes, that's great advice. If he was drugged or something, that should show up in the autopsy report. Some sort of Rufalin or, whatever. That would show up in the report, which if he was drugged, and he somehow fell into the water, whoever drugged him, even if they didn't put him in the water, but if they did drug him, then they would be responsible for his death and should be charged accordingly.
Knowing their lodging and their transportation plans, knowing who they're traveling with, contact information for those other kids as well as their families is really quite helpful. And then, being proactive rather than reactive, having conversations in advance, throwing out some what would you do scenarios. If you are in a different culture, a different place, and you're feeling uncomfortable, how would you handle that? So talking in advance about those things is really crucial.
No, I'm not ruling anything out. I was asked, do I think that, based on the limited information that, and no, I don't know. I don't. The part of him leaving with somebody, some mysterious person, though, does bother me. So,
Andrea, that's an important point. Make sure you don't just have your own son or daughter's phone number and address where they're going to be staying. Get the phone numbers of the other kids he or she is traveling with.
Absolutely.
You can check in with them and say, have you seen, why haven't I heard, that sort of thing. Michael Matranga, Dr.
I'm sorry that happened to you as well. Danielle.
Andrea Malkin-Brenner, thank you both so much.
I'm not getting Cuomo'd.
Important advice. What a heartbreaking story. Really tough for this family.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below.
Oh. Oh, God. Cuomo's going to talk about it.
Was this a tragedy? Was this a horrible accident? Or was Jimmy killed?
Sorry.
I want to bring in the CEO of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases, Morgan Wright. Was this a tragedy? Was this a horrible accident?
By the way, I noticed that Joseph or Joe Morgan Scott, I think is his name, was on Nancy again.
Accident. Or was Jimmy killed? I want to bring in the CEO of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases, Morgan Wright, and also former FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffin-Deffer. Appreciate both coming on. Morgan, what are the questions?
Kef and Defe.
Questions that you want answered right now.
One of the questions well, first of all, for the police to say we think it's accidental, they have no autopsy
Joseph Scott Morgan. My apologies.
yet. They have no forensic results, no toxicology. We don't know if there was water in the lungs. We don't know. I mean, you have to do this, you have to establish two things: cause of death, how did they die, manner of death. And there's only 5, natural, homicide, accidental, suicide, or undetermined.
And just to be clear, there's nothing on the surface. They find the body, nothing that can definitively tell them that without further examination.
No, and you might see blunt trauma, but blunt trauma could happen because somebody tripped and fell, hit their head on the way down. So we don't know. We don't know if he was alive when he went into the water. We don't know if he was dead when he went into the water. We don't know if there was drugs in his system, how much alcohol. Too many unanswered questions. I mean, this is very similar to Madeleine McCann. This is very similar to Natalie Holloway. You have a death of somebody in a country. They're not from that country, and now the police forces are involved. So this is not the easiest of cases to deal with because there are so many questions.
You guys, it's a 4-minute segment. All right. It's not like a 45. It's 4 minutes. Just like.
And you
work with me here.
Have to rely upon the local law enforcement. They have a judge system there that determines a lot of things. So whether the family can even get a second autopsy is going to be up to a judge.
By the way, on my show tonight, we're having TJ Ward, who is the investigator in the Natalie Holloway case, to talk about this. Jennifer, I find a couple things odd with this. Number one, left with somebody. Number two, his phone was stolen. You could make the narrative. I'm sure maybe there's a situation where he left the club, stumbled there, fell in, it's a tragedy. But then there's these aspects of it that I wonder how much police are going to be looking into, and if you have questions about it.
Well, that's an interesting point about the phone, but remember that phone was reported missing well in advance of him being.
I listen to people that I don't like all the time.
Missing. And in fact, my understanding is that phone was likely pickpocketed. Barcelona, especially in these areas, Jesse, 250 approximately pickpockets and petty thefts happen a day there. So this is an area that is very well known for this type of activity. It's my understanding it was reported missing early, and then in fact it might have been used as a extortion type situation, and that's how they came to it, Jesse. And I had a case like this.
What do you mean by that, an extortion?
Where an individual, a pickpocket, a petty thief will steal a phone that they pickpocket, and then they will try to contact that individual and say, listen, $200.
All right, I'm not going to listen to that. We're going to move on. We're going to move on.
And the
all right, last one for the
20-year-old student we've been talking about, the University of Alabama, who had gone missing in Barcelona. Family said he was visiting friends there during spring break, never returned back to his Airbnb, and the police in Spain now have confirmed that it was indeed Jimmy Gracey's body that was found at sea. All right, so let's talk about this. She's been following it as the news breaks. Our senior national correspondent, Laura Engel, who is here with me in New York. We've been talking about, every parent's nightmare and just a sad ending to the story.
It certainly is. I mean, and we're waiting to find out exactly what took place. I mean, this is all developing in the last few hours, that the search for Jimmy Gracey has been going on all day. Divers in the water. You've seen.
I mean, I'm indifferent, but I don't know anything about her. I don't believe that it was like an extortion. I don't know. I just didn't really want to hear that.
The video of those divers in the water today, Barcelona, Spain, just outside of this restaurant, an area where Jimmy was last seen on Tuesday, 3 o'clock in the morning. He was out with friends. Reports that his mother has said that he got separated from his friends at the end of the night. We've kind of heard these stories before. We're not clear what happened. There are reports that he was seen with someone. We've heard reports that his phone was recovered. Unclear who had that phone. Wallet possibly floating in the water. We've just seen some images that are floating around online about where the body was discovered, possibly between a sailboat and a dock that's right near this restaurant that's on the sea. So right now, the investigation is ongoing. We've got to wait to see what authorities say. It will do the toxicology. Was there anything in his system? Was it a tragic accident? Is foul play involved? So we know that his father is there from the United States. He arrived a couple of days ago to search for his son. I believe actually it was yesterday. So now we just have to wait for authorities to tell us what they can.
But
I mean, the fact that the water is so close. There was maybe somebody can help me understand or remember this, but there was another case probably about a year or so ago where another young man got separated. His cell phone was dying. He left with a couple drug dealers, went to their apartment, left their apartment, and then they found him dead in like the desert. And they said that he was drunk and discombobulated, but that he left with these two. And I mean, I guess what case was that? God dang it, I can't remember. But they ruled that accidental, I believe. And that seemed way more suspicious to me than this one. But it's not that you are drunk and you walk into water. It's that you're drunk and vulnerable to exploitation. Hey, man, let me help you out. Yeah, of course. Of course. What is that one, though? Does anybody remember that one? Rig, what is that? Yeah, the British kid. Yes. It was also Spain. That's right. You guys remember that one? Portugal? I don't know. Yeah. Do you guys remember that case? That was interesting. Because Jay Slater, there we go. Wasn't there a kid in Tennessee? Like, yes, that is Riley Strain. Riley Strain. Jay Slater. You know what? Hold on. That one, I remember, like, I was fascinated by that one. And what did they ever come up with in that one? What did they end up in the Jay Slater case? What did they say about that one? Didn't they say that he just hold on here. Did they say it was accidental? There's people still talking about it, actually. Anyway, hold on.
we already know it's his body, which is it's just a sad, sad situation. His dad is there. All right, Laura, thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below.
All right, dude. That's right. It was accidental, but remember, he left with a couple like dudes that were, you know, sketchy at best. And then I remember like those guys, they like painted their house. Yes, Riley was found. Yeah. I don't have any rice cakes yet. I got to go get some. They said they heard his friends. He was on the phone with his friends, right? Sorry.
Go and download our news.
Shut up, Cuomo. Okay, so anyway, we'll keep an eye on that. We're going to move on to the Nancy Guthrie case. Yeah, they said that they heard him slip or something. But do you guys there was like a drug deal or something? The whole thing seemed really sketchy, and then all of a sudden it was like, you know what I mean? Like it was. Let me do something here because this is pissing me off a little bit. I don't like that. I don't like that. Okay, so this one, the title, Enton says why the Nancy Guthrie case is not a burglary gone wrong. If you guys remember, my theory for the longest time was a burglary gone wrong. But they're saying, and then I got told I was an idiot, and I was fat, and that I was stupid, that I was fat. I didn't know what I was talking about. I was chubby.
Hey guys, thanks so much for checking out my show. I really, really appreciate it. Please click to subscribe. Really appreciate all of your support. Today is day 47 in the search for Nancy.
Like people would ask, like, "What do you think?" And then I tell them, and they go, "You're dumb,
Guthrie,
fat."
It is Thursday, and I've been thinking a lot about. There's been so many theories out there about what happened to Nancy. And it's interesting with Pima County Sheriff Chris Nanos in his last interview he did, he said that they even have
a Tiger Shark. I talked about that at the very beginning of the show.
A theory that they've had for a while, but he wouldn't say what it was. There was some reporting weeks ago that the Sheriff's Department theory, the working theory, may have been a burglary gone wrong, though that's never been confirmed. And that's always a theory that I've had a hard time wrapping my mind around, because why would whoever did this take Nancy Guthrie away if this was just supposed to be a burglary? If something went wrong when they were in the house, why wouldn't they have just left Nancy there? I've never really been able to wrap my mind around that. And this episode is really interesting because it explains why this is likely not a burglary gone wrong, and why this is likely a targeted abduction. Granted, we don't know. I mean, we don't know the circumstances, obviously. But in this episode, I'm going to lay out for you everything we do know, and some of it starts to make a little more sense.
I'm joined now by Morgan Wright, and I want to read your whole bio, Morgan, just because it's so impressive.
Oh man, we got more silver foxes than we could shake a stick at on the screen. Holy crap.
CEO and founder of the National Center for Open and Unsolved Cases, editor and host of Crime Reconstructed Substack and podcast, which I love your Substack, by the way.
Look at all those guys. Oh, well, thank you. I'm just saying, all right.
You're also a senior advisor in the U.S. State Department Anti-Terrorism Assistance Program, senior law enforcement advisor for the 2012 Republican National Convention. You taught behavioral analysis.
I appreciate that compliment. That is what ugly people are told.
Analysis at the National Security Agency, spent a year teaching the FBI how to conduct internal investigations. And then for 18 years, you were with state and local law enforcement as a state trooper and detective. So I think hopefully I hit the highlights there. And you were also in Tucson recently, so you know a lot about the Nancy Guthrie
Oh, yeah.
case.
I want to correct. I taught them internet investigations, not internal. There is a whole different mindset when you say you taught internal investigations. So, I was never internal affairs, just for the cops listening out there. Yeah.
Good to know. And you were in Tucson, was it a couple weeks ago?
Well, actually, no, it was when the raid went on, you and I were talking. So when they did that raid, it was just, I think, a couple weeks into it. So I was out there, as they say, with another network. But it was great because you had, and Brian, you know, too, that's one of the most important things you do. You just can't report on it from afar. One of the things that made you so effective, and look, let me tell you, even on these other networks, people were referencing your reporting because you were out there, you were in the midst of things, you were getting information. If you're not on the ground and you don't understand how the roads are, you don't understand how the community is, you don't understand how hard that desert is out there, it gives a whole different complexion to the reporting. So it was important to be out there. And with your reporting, it's important to actually be on the ground. I even followed when you drove into Mexico to show how easy it was to cross the border.
Yeah, and you're right. Unless you're there, it's such a unique kind of landscape, and Nancy's neighborhood is so unique. I wanted to start off asking you, though, the sheriff in his last interview said that they have a theory of what they think happened, and he won't say what it is. And you've been studying this case since the beginning, and like you said, you've been to Tucson. What is your working theory right now? I mean, some people have said burglary gone wrong. Other people think it's a kidnapping, maybe something related to Savannah Guthrie, a stalker. What's your working theory?
So one of the things I do on the Substack, but I walk people back. I don't have theory. What I have are hypothesis. And the reason I say that is, and I've seen this happen, and you've seen this happen too, Brian. I've seen this happen in big cases. It starts with, well, we have a theory, then a theory becomes what we know, and what we know becomes the narrative. And I will tell you the biggest failure of that, I was in D.C. in Northern Virginia, not only for 9/11, but the D.C. sniper. And the narrative was, it was a white panel van. Totally wrong. They got it all wrong. It was a blue Chevy Caprice. So the reason I say that is I test some theories, and I get that they might have a theory, but I think they confuse theory with hypothesis. Sometimes they get theory, but here's mine. I wrote a Substack on this early on. And having investigated missing people, kidnappings, burglaries, robberies, homicides, when you look at this case, Brian, it's only one of two things. Either it's a burglary that went wrong, or it was never a burglary. And if it was a burglary gone wrong, then the biggest question you have to ask is, what conditions existed inside the house to where somebody that was there to commit a property crime primarily decided it was less risky to kidnap somebody than it was to just flee. And then I think that's the thing where we're missing, which I know you'd love to get inside. So would I, that when the crime scene happened, what does it actually look like? What did the bed look like? Did it look like Nancy got out of bed versus was she dragged out of bed? That's the difference between a confrontation in the bedroom or somebody that gets up. So, I mean, here's the thing I boiled down to. Over time, I was saying the quiet parts out loud. Even on, I remember being on with you and Elizabeth Vargas. We were talking about this. I said, it's not at some point.
I don't know. Need my other silver fox. God, I can't believe I just said that.
Concerned about being caught. Savannah Guthrie's mother, Nancy Guthrie, missing day 47. Tonight, we learn one car in particular taking center stage in the FBI's analysis. A white vehicle seen in the maze of streets surrounding Nancy's home. What is the latest? Tonight, we're also learning that this vacant home may have been used as a staging area for the kidnapper. Does that explain why we don't see the kidnapper entering or exiting from a vehicle? He's in no rush. The dog behind Nancy Guthrie's home goes crazy at 2 a.m. Is it because he didn't need a car because he has a staging area near Nancy's home in her very own neighborhood? Also tonight, the FBI focusing on pharmaceutical records that are similar to Nancy Guthrie's medication. All of this happening while we learn that the casting attempts failed, trying to get footprints or tracks outside the home. The FBI now apparently looking at
I don't remember.
Static lift prints from inside the home. And what is Nanos doing during all of this? He's going to the gym. Good evening. I'm Nancy Grace. This is Crime Stories. I want to thank you for being with us. Allegations of misconduct and tampering with evidence.
Local politicians have just had their fill. They're embarrassed and humiliated with what Nanos has done.
Now, 3 accomplices may be at work. One vehicle in particular is taking center stage with the FBI search for Nancy Guthrie. It is a white vehicle. Straight out to Dave Mack, Crime Stories investigative reporter. Dave Mack, it's curious.
I mean, him going to the gym I don't think is a big deal either.
Via Entrada is like a maze of streets and intersections.
Oh my God, dude, this guy's not a silver fox. He's a silver Yeti.
Surrounding,
just kidding.
Part of that anyway, surrounding Nancy Guthrie's home. What can you tell me about Pima County Sheriff's?
This Dave Mack here. Dave Mack. Hey, Nancy. We got Dave Mack in the house. Good to see you. Dave Mack. Mack, the Mack Attack. Mack, schmack.
Requesting now surveillance footage, anything neighbors may have of a vehicle. Tell me what you know.
Well, the law enforcement, we're talking the FBI and the sheriff's department, asking all of the homes in the
He looks like I don't know why, but his background looks like a detention center
area, if they have a camera pointed toward the street, to go back and get that video for the law enforcement, because they don't want it being recorded over. You're showing right there at 2:38 in the morning, we've got a car within 2.5 miles of Nancy Guthrie's home seen on Ring camera. This is a shocker, because when the sheriff's department first put up their ring of area they were confident in was about 2 miles. This is at 2.5 miles, so they missed it. Now this is becoming a huge part of the investigation as law enforcement is trying to identify what type of vehicle it is and anything else they can find. So they're looking for any vehicles traveling along these roads that match up with this vehicle, trying to identify it, Nancy. And they're looking for every camera they can find.
I'm going to go straight out to Scott Eicher joining us, a founding member of the FBI's. By the way, this video is from our friends at Fox News, the FBI's Cellular Analysis Survey team, but also homicide investigator in Norfolk Police. Has worked so many missing people cases, he can't count them. Now at Precision Cellular Analysis. Scott Eicher, speaking of the car, I think it's very telling that Pima County Sheriff's is asking now for footage of vehicles in the neighborhood. And they asked for footage about a car the morning, 10 a.m., the morning of the kidnap. That would have been January 31. What do you think?
Well, this is the normal process of the investigation.
Dude, this guy, never mind.
Like this, you have breakout groups that are looking at different sections of the investigation. I'm sure there's one group of investigators that are saying, okay, we're going to concentrate on trying to identify this car seen going by the cactuses, and we got to start working on that. So they'll follow that path. They'll go out and talk to the neighbors. They'll help the neighbors access their cameras, because as we know, some people are not very good at accessing their film and their footage. They'll go to the businesses, and they're going to keep asking the public.
No, I'm not going to say it because it probably be taken as racist.
To provide anything they have that might help identify vehicles that were in that area at that time. We're doing the same thing with the cell phones, right? We're following cell phones. Hopefully we see a cell phone follow that same track as that car went from Nancy's neighborhood to that main street. Things like that will help us clue and piece it together.
You know, that's significant. Straight out to Joe Scott Morgan joining us, professor of forensics, Jacksonville.
Ooh, Joe Scott Morgan. Ooh.
State University, author of Blood Beneath My Feet on Amazon, and star of a hit new series, Body Bags, with Joseph Scott Morgan. We're showing you some footage from our friends at Fox. Joe Scott, he just brought up something really interesting. Well, among many things.
I was going to say that the guy before, he kind of looks like the guy that does the yards in my neighborhood. But if the guy in my neighborhood dressed up to go to church.
Tonight, focus on a vehicle, Joe Scott, at 10 a.m. 10 a.m. January 31, which tells me they believe the perp was in broad daylight, January 31. And before I lose the thought, Joe Scott, what Iker just said, remember in Alex Murdaugh's trial that you and I investigated ourselves?
Yeah.
We see Murdaugh's huge honking SUV traveling the night of the murders when he murdered Paul and Maggie, his wife and son, with his cell phone, scratching off from the scene, and he had Maggie's cell phone with him.
Yep.
The info, the black box, so to speak, inside his SUV shows him stopping the car, lowering the passenger side window. That is where we find Maggie's cell phone thrown out the window, right there.
Mm-hmm.
So very often we see cell phones traveling with a car. And my point is that if we get a cell phone traveling with the car at 10 a.m., January 31, now we've got a cell number. Because even if the perp turned off his cell the night of the kidnapping, I guarantee you he didn't turn it off the morning of the kidnapping, 10 a.m. See where I'm going?
Yeah. Well, yeah. Why would you? And again, this is another one of these benchmarks relative to benchmarking that immediate point in time. And this goes back to a theory that I've held on and that other people have held on to over the time, and that's the idea of casing this area. Just going back and making sure that everything is as they perceive it to be. Maybe taking one last glance at the area before they go in to do whatever it is that they're going to do, and assessing the area. I think that this is very, very critical piece of information, Nancy, because if they can tie that back to a suspect here, this is going to be critical moving forward with the case specifically.
Simmer down, chat.
On day.
I need this chat to, we're at here. I need you here. Okay. I get it. It's good looking. I don't think he's whatever.
One, Brian Fitzgibbons joining us, USPA Nationwide Security. Let me just say again, leading a team of investigators that do nothing but find missing people and extract them. Former Marine, Iraqi war vet, Fitzgibbons, day one, you and I said, car. You've got Brian Kohberger cracked with a car. Yes, we hear about the DNA analysis, which was amazing, but it all started with a clerk at a gas station seeing his white Elantra speeding by around 4 a.m. the morning of the murders.
I'm so sick of that. I'm so sick of that big bird looking ass dude. I just want him to fade into obscurity for the remainder. Like, if there are truly black holes, I hope he gets sucked into one.
Right? And she gave that to police, and the alarm went out to all law enforcement, including campus police, about a white Elantra. A campus cop at WSU, Washington State University, says, oh, who's registered on campus for a parking spot with a white Elantra? Oh, Brian Kohberger. That's where his name came from, because of his car. And then I like to use the case of glam yoga instructor Caitlin Armstrong. She murdered her love rival, a world-class dirt bike champion, because of over a man. Really? And her SUV is seen circling the murder scene. And then, of course, there's Molly Tibbetts. She goes out for a jog after studying all afternoon. And over, there she is. There's Molly. And this guy keeps approaching her because of distinctive markings on his vehicle. He's tracked through a vehicle. Day one, Fitzgibbons.
He's like this, like true crime. I don't know exactly, but what he is, he's a loser piece of shit who killed 4 people while they were mostly asleep and intoxicated because he couldn't make friends and get girlfriends. I mean, that's all there is to him. There's nothing more to it. And he's a little baby bitch who cries about, I can't eat meat, or I can't eat when somebody out of a pot. I can't cook in a pot when somebody's made meat in it before. I need a banana. Mama.
We said car. And I'm not giving you or myself a pat on the back. I'm saying if this is the car at 10 a.m. Jan 31 that they're interested in, jackpot.
I like Chiquitas. Not the ones from Walmart.
Maybe.
Yeah, and hey, you can go to great lengths to hide a cell phone. You could not take it. You could put it in airplane mode. It could be in a Faraday bag to try to keep Scott Eicher from finding you. But you can't hide a car. You can't hide a vehicle. So the hope is that if we can identify this vehicle and start to piece together some of the video evidence.
Mother, we need new pots and pans. You cooked venison in this one, and the taste will never get out. I can't. A broth makes me sick.
From the surrounding area. And, experts on this case have gone to great lengths, including Douglas McGregor, who's been on this show, to map out the potential avenues of egress from Mrs. Guthrie's home. So that's got to be the focus is getting the description of that vehicle and trying to find some video evidence of it to tie it back to an owner.
Okay, Scott Eicher, how do you trace a car? Once we have the picture, if we get the picture at 10 a.m., they've got to have a reason that they're saying 10 a.m. the morning of the kidnap. Jan 31, she's kidnapped. Go through the clock. The next morning around 2 a.m. Why are they saying 10 a.m. Jan 31? They've got to have a reason for saying that. Was there an eyewitness? Remember early on, a neighbor said they had seen a strange car that didn't belong to anybody sitting out on the street for an
I swear he looks exactly like him. Oh my God, dude, I'd be spitting in his food and everything. Prayers and pills. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. It's very kind of you. And it's good to see you as well. He's just so
extended period of time near Nancy's home.
He's so, I can't stand.
Is it that?
And people are like, I want to talk to Koberger. Why? It would be the most boring conversation you ever had in your life. I mean, there's not one redeeming quality about him. He's boring. He sucks at rapping. He's actually better than T-Rev, but not by a lot. I remember when T-Rev was insulted. He's like, dude, Koberger sucks at rapping.
Are we finally tying something together tonight? So let's just pretend, for argument's sake, it is the car. They've got a time. They have a time. They must know about a car. So how do we track it?
Well, there's several different ways. One, we've talked about the videos, and they've got to really push that to get that from all the neighbors, all the businesses. Two is looking at the cell phones embedded in cars. If it's a newer type vehicle, we can narrow that down through the tower dumps of that area, identifying the type of cars that are there. Hopefully it will match the types of cars. And then we can track those cars and the cell phones that are traveling with those cars at those specific times. So that would help us get to those points of hopefully identifying who that is and what kind of car they were in, and then where they went to after they were in the area around the time of the abduction.
So here's another question out to you, Joseph Scott Morgan. Can they trace the car's movements? Which way was it going? Does it match potentially one of the cars caught 2.5 miles away the night of the kidnapping that we see on video? Is it one of those cars? Can we connect that? Can we connect it to the car that's been sitting out in the neighborhood surveilling? Can we connect it to the car that was spotted at a gas station, 7-Eleven type store that night? I mean, there's cars out the yin yang. A white vehicle was spotted on ring cam 7 minutes away from Nancy's home. Are the pieces of the puzzle finally fitting together regarding a vehicle? Because now we know, Joe Scott, they're looking at a specific vehicle.
I think I said this last night, but I truly believe this. And sorry to the lady who only made it 39 minutes in. Shout out to her if she's still here. What's up? Tried to stay on track for you. Couldn't. Talked about a hangnail. Had one. Got over it. Looking for new Band-Aids. Can't wait to go to Target. Now, I'm worried that my worry is the genealogy thing. That they're putting all their eggs in one basket. And
I think it's a white vehicle. The morning she's taken. They're zeroing in on that, Joe Scott. What else is your analysis?
Yeah, Joe Scott.
Well, going to my esteemed colleague, Mr. Eicher, I think that the most critical bit to this is trying to get that videography from all these other locations, and they can kind of create what I would call a mosaic of this imagery of the car moving past, moving forward, going about, and also if they are able, because you had mentioned earlier about the cell phone, if this thing is pinging in there and they're capturing this, particularly in the approximately 10 a.m. run that you're talking about, if they can zero that in, then you've got 2 points of.
Dude, Dahmer, that interview any interview that Dahmer ever gave, that guy sucked as well. He was so boring. Raid from where? We got a raid coming from. Where's the raid coming from?
Connectivity at that moment in time. Where is this thing moving to? Can you see it moving in front of other cameras? And also out and about, away from this kind of, as it's been described, this maze in this neighborhood. Is there anything out on the periphery they've been able to piece together from local businesses that is going to match this up? I think that that's going to be critical. I'm very interested still with this area that is adjacent to the construction area that was there and this unoccupied home. I want to know, has that car ever settled there? Has it stopped? Has it paused? Because you're looking at a couple of locations where it could have paused. So where is the interest here? You know, going back to this idea of the profile of the individual, where are they vested time-wise? Where are they vested location-wise? And that's going to be a big part of this thread, Nancy.
American homeowners, the FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud called title theft.
And Joey H. Joey says, agree with you, all eggs in a potentially empty basket, Josh. Are you preparing that this may end up as a cold case along with Zodiac, Black Dahlia, forever unsolved mystery? I truly hope not. But the thing is that every single person that they've asked, do they think that this will get solved? They all go back to, yes, I think it will. And they always bring up the genealogy aspect of this. And it very well may solve it. But it feels like that's sort of where the investigation, like, they're not searching the desert. They're not, I mean, it's, how were they going to find Nancy? Even if you find the perp or the guy that you think, like, that doesn't mean you're going to find Nancy. So I just don't understand it. And I feel like they're just trying to wait for this genealogy stuff to come back. And like I said, it very well might solve the case. Maybe if that's the person that committed the crime.
Equity, the target. With just a forged signature, your ownership can be transferred out of your name. And without protection in place, you're left with an emotional and financial nightmare. That is why we partner with Home Title Law.
I hope so.
So you can find out today if you're already a victim and protect yourself. Use promo code
In the Kohberger case, they had been on Kohberger's ass for quite a while already. And I think it was it day 40, what? 6 weeks or something in? They had their guy. I mean, you have people saying yesterday that they have no leads, that they have no, or not, excuse me, not that they don't have any leads. That's not true. I'm sorry. They have no suspect. They don't have a suspect.
Nancy at HomeTitleLock.com to get a free title history report. He's putting money. The Fed isn't. Just good luck.
We got Dave Mack back in the house, by the way. Let's check in with Sheriff Nanos. Sheriff Nanos, how do you think this investigation is going?
You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate.
It's fact. He's right. And what do you think of haters?
Haters are going to hate.
All right. Thanks. We'll check back with you later.
Dave Mack, specifically, we understand the feds are interested in vehicles along Via Entrada. Where is Via Entrada? What is it?
It's the main residential road entering the neighborhood where Nancy Guthrie lives. It is referred to as a maze-like road. It serves as the main residential road.
One of the truest things that anybody has ever said is haters gonna hate.
Into the Catalina Foothills neighborhood. And you mentioned this earlier. It forms part of a maze-like residential area that is poorly lit at night. That comes into play. You have to know the roads and where you're going at night to be able to function in this area along Via Entrada.
So once we have a date, once we have a time, 10 a.m., we can go from there. And Scott Eichert, wouldn't it be possible if we're going with a white car, 10 a.m., Jan 31, to try, I'm sure you recall the Fotis Dulos case, Jennifer Dulos, Connecticut Mama 5, body never found.
Oh.
The law enforcement there in Connecticut put together an incredible video montage from businesses, homes, even at one point, a public bus opened up and you see the perp driving by, tracking his movements. I've got a time, I've got a potential vehicle, I've got a street. Isn't it possible now to look at the cams, look at Wi-Fi along the routes and see where the car went? I know it's going to be difficult, but is it possible?
It is difficult, and there's a lot of different databases we can pull from. One is the videos from the area, as you mentioned, the choke points coming from that point. Where would a car have to go from that point to get to other areas? The main avenues, the stoplights, the business cameras, is all important stuff. But when we look at the cellular aspect of it, we can look at Google, we can look at Facebook, we can look at just tower dumps.
Well, look, he may get grilled in court or on the stand, but I mean, if he just sticks to what he knows, you know,
You're going to have the haters, right?
yeah, that's all he needs to say. Sheriff Nanos, do you stand by the way that you investigated this?
You're going to have the haters, right? You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate.
Same stuff. We do another tower dump in that area because it's going to be possibly different towers than the used around Miss Guthrie's residence. And we see, all right, is that those devices in that tower dump also in Nancy Guthrie's area tower dump? So now we put that same device in two.
I mean, what do you say to that? What could you possibly say with somebody, hey, dog, haters gonna hate, cuz?
Important areas. That helps us a lot to
shizzle, my nizzle. Haters are gonna hate, dog. You know, it's right. They are. They hate.
Narrow down the amount of different devices that we have to sort through to figure out which ones are important.
Also tonight, a vacant home used as a staging area. Dave Mack, what does that mean?
Nancy, it is a home that sits off the backyard of Nancy Guthrie's home. It's vacant. And you mentioned...
I'm sorry, but, Dave Mack, I like the guy. I think he says the most useless shit. And I'm being a hater.
I did earlier, the perp walks up to the front door. We don't see a car dropping them off. We don't see a car picking them up in the neighborhood right there. But if they were staging, meaning if the perpetrators were in that is vacant, they could be in that house for days. They could be watching the comings and goings at Nancy Guthrie's home. And then when they decide it's time to go, walk across the backyard area. Now, this is at the time, we're talking 2 to 2:30 in the morning, when Nancy Guthrie's neighbor facing her backyard, facing Nancy Guthrie's backyard, the dog went crazy. And the two video cameras facing the...
Sorry, Nancy, I don't have my notes ready. I'm getting a pedicure right now. You should see it down here at the mall. They got a 2-for-1. They do 1 foot, but then if you pay for 1 foot, they'll do the other foot. But it's almost like you have to pay full price. So I don't really understand the buy one, get one over here, Nancy.
Backyard of Nancy Guthrie went silent, could not connect to Wi-Fi. The vacant home is near there. So if it's used by the perpetrators as a place to make their plan, to stage, well...
Oh, my God. Canadian Mama Bear. Josh, watching Dr. B reacting playing GeoGuessr the other night was... dude, he was fascinated. And he also called me Rain Man. So I wasn't lost on me. And yeah, I mean, that was surreal. There was 1,000 people watching me play GeoGuessr. It was ridiculous.
There you go. You've got a clear shot walking into Nancy Guthrie's home, and we've got a dog going crazy.
This aerial view from our friends at 12 News. And I'm going to ask
Hey, thanks for that, Mac Attack. Nothing going on over here. All right, breaker.
Control room to please show me the aerial view of the feds coming through her side entrance.
That has to, like, Dave Mack has to be like her cousin or like an in-law or something.
Coming from this same direction.
He called me Rain Man.
Going past the pool and actually taking photos of the gate, the pool gate. Remember this, Joe Scott Morgan? After Nano said, oh, there's nothing to see here, we see the feds coming through that side area. They're going through the pool area, and they're going to pause and take photos when they go out the gate. This would be consistent with the perp coming from a staging area.
You're going to have the haters,
or
right?
Parked elsewhere. Coming through the backyard neighbor's lawn, going into Nancy Guthrie's property, and going past the pool and coming through that gate. This is from our friends at Fox News, but let's see the 12 video again, the aerial video. Where would the vacant home be? There you see the neighbor's house. Did he come around and go through the pool area and down that side portion of Nancy's home? This is from our friends at 12 News. So to you, Joseph Scott Morgan, let's just go with the theory. We have to pursue every avenue.
We got a silver fox in the house.
that a vacant home.
There's Kelsey. She's like in love with this guy. Old enough to be her grandpa, by the way.
Was used as a staging area. Yeah. What should they be doing right now as far as processing the staging area?
Well, I hope that it's completely locked down and that they've got the right personnel that are out there that could potentially process this. Thinking about anybody that might be indwelling, and just like Dave said just a moment ago, were they hanging out there for
maybe not. I mean, he could be 36
for
Maybe
an extended period of time. And that's key, because the longer you hang out in a location relative to, say, trace evidence as it applies to forensics, the higher the probability is that you're going to leave something behind, just like Lecart's principle. So if you're in that space, whether it be footprints or whatever the case might be, maybe discarded wrappers, if you're surveilling an area, things that you might not think of that we would go in, because we've got all the time in the world as forensics folks to go in there and pick that place apart.
Staging area. Oh, shit. I went to pause it. Son of a gun. Okay, hold on. While we're at it, please hit that like button. We got 640 something people in here, 300 likes. We got to bump that up. Those are rookie numbers.
Processing the staging area.
Well, I hope that it's completely locked down and that they've got the right personnel that are out there that could potentially process this. Thinking about anybody that might be indwelling, and just like Dave said just a moment ago, were they hanging out there for an extended period of time? And that's key, because the longer you hang out in a location relative to, say, trace evidence as it applies to forensics, the higher the probability is that you're going to leave something behind, just like Lecart's principle. So if you're in that space, whether it be footprints or whatever the case might be, maybe discarded wrappers, if you're surveilling an area, things that you might not think of that we would go in, because we've got all the time in the world as forensics folks to go in there and pick that place apart. My biggest concern, Nancy, is that they haven't gotten to this soon enough, because we've got a lot of time that has elapsed. Has anything degraded in there? Has anything been rubbed up against and obliterated? All these sorts of things. So this is a time critical area. And given the proximity, I think that it's significant. I hope that they're processing this accurately, looking for things like fingerprints, footprints, anything that can tie back to perhaps Mrs. Guthrie's location, maybe even that car that we were talking about, the phone, points of ingress and egress. You think about that gate back there in the backside. Did they always take care, if they were surveilling the area, to walk through that gate? Did they touch it? Had they left anything behind? So all of this stuff is still on the table, my friend.
This could explain why we don't see a car that night, why the porch guy approached on foot. Is the vacant house behind Guthrie's home? Does it require the perp to come through the yard where the dog barked? Is the vacant home being processed for prints, DNA evidence? Question, were people squatting there?
All right, for the people that are just getting here, we started the show off fast, and there's no way that this lady's still listening to the show. We're 2 hours in. She's done. But listen to this comment she left me, because there were a few people here at the beginning. There's more now. Listen to this. Listen to this lady roasts me. I try to watch this show. When it stays on track, I really enjoy it. However, when the video stops for unrelated topics like this exact situation right here, however, when the video stops for unrelated topics such as what kind of car the sheriff drives, it makes it hard to focus on the topic. Sometimes the side conversations last long periods of time, and I just give up and leave. I made it 39 minutes on this video.
They have a lease. Did they rent? We see the feds walking the trail. Is this why? So many cases that I have covered and investigated and prosecuted involved use of a vacant home.
You're going to have
Joe Scott, while I've got you, we now
Haters are gonna
know
hate.
that the cast prints that were attempted outdoors likely yielded nothing, probably because it was a gravel walkway for any number of reasons. But there's still hope of electrostatic lifts. What's that?
Okay, so when you think about electrostatic lifts, we all know about magnetism, right? We learned about that in physical science back in junior high school. So negatives attract positives. So what we do with electrostatic lift, you see an example of one here that we did at Jack State. That's a mylar sheet. It's kind of like vinyl. You lay it over a suspected area where you have taken an oblique light. You see how we're lighting that kind of obliquely like that? And we try to raise that print by electrostatic a charge. So you place the mylar sheet over it, you add an electrical charge. The charge on the paper, on the mylar, is actually negative, and everything at the ground level is positive. So what happens is this is lifted and captured. And we have that for, as long as we treat it, with respect, the bit of evidence so that we don't ruin it. We can go back.
Hey, Doug, and that picture is of our friend Kathy Cake-2. Cake-2, who was a mod on this channel, her service was today. And they laid her to rest.
Back to the lab, and we can have a footprint expert that can assess it. And you're going to look for all kinds of little anomalies in there. And here's a thought, Nancy. Here's a thought as well. Back to that vacant house, okay? Are there any footprints over there that they could have actually assessed relative to electromagnetic lifts that could be tied back to anything that they might find on the floors inside of her house?
It wasn't,
if the scene wasn't destroyed by crime scene investigation.
I got contacted by a lady that she worked with, and who was very upset about this situation with Kathy Cake-2, and she sucks, man.
Investigator Scott Eicher, we're also learning that the feds are searching for pharmaceutical records similar to meds used by Nancy Guthrie. How do you do that? Clearly, they're trying to find someone filling prescriptions or getting meds for Nancy Guthrie. So how do you go about finding that information?
Well, you got to first jump the hurdle of privacy regarding medical records. That's going to be a tough one to get past. One of the things that you think about is that if they abducted Nancy and they wanted to keep her alive, did they refill her prescription somehow? Okay, maybe they didn't do that. But can we find other people, newer people that just started the same type of prescriptions that Nancy was on? So, I mean, that's an avenue to go, but I think it's going to be hard. It's not like you can do a tower dump on prescriptions. You're going to have to find a way to get into the privacy aspect of getting people's medical histories.
Well, if there's a way, I guarantee the feds will find it. Tonight, we're also learning the feds are expanding their questioning to people that don't necessarily live in the neighborhood. They are now questioning landscapers, construction workers, gardeners, you name it. Maybe the pool crew that Nana's allowed to come clean the pool after the kidnapping. Question to you, Dave Mack.
Thanks, Justin.
Is it true that in the midst of all this, with the feds doing the heavy lifting, Nanos is spending quality time at the gym?
Nancy, he is under a microscope, and it doesn't seem to bother him in the least bit. Just to give you an idea, he has gone to the gym 4 out of 5 days. He's spending 90 plus minutes inside the gym. And by the way, he's being followed by the media because, again, this is a guy that's got a recall out on him right now. He lives in an $850,000 gated community. His home is a mini mansion. He's driving a fairly new Corvette convertible, and they follow him to the gym where he's 90 minutes at least working out, making himself look better because, daggone it, the rest of us are trying to figure out where Nancy Guthrie is. But no, he's more concerned about how he looks.
Well, look, I mean, he's allowed to work out. I mean, come on. You can't work out. Some people work out. I mean, that's just how it works. It's life. I don't think it's that big of a deal that he's working out.
So many people are struggling to keep up with credit card payments every single month. American Financing can help you take advantage of the home.
Like I don't. Like, I'm not the guy's biggest fan.
Haters are going to hate.
But, you know, he goes to the gym. I mean, it's what people do. Is he allowed to have a cup of coffee?
Haters are going to hate.
Yeah, you know. And that Dave Mack, you're being a hater, bro.
You're going to have the haters, right?
You're being a hate.
You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate.
Equity you have built up, and then you can say goodbye to that never-ending credit card debt. Their customers are currently saving an average of $800 every month. Good. Author of Sizing People Up, a veteran FBI agent's manual for behavior prediction. He's got a second book, Unbreakable Alliances, a spy recruiter's authoritative guide to cultivating powerful and lasting connections. Robin Dreeke is joining us. And Robin, you got me at former FBI special agent and chief of the FBI Counterintelligence Behavioral Analysis Program. The books are just gravy. Thank you for being with us, Robin. Robin, I want you to look at something that's come to our attention, and that is the behavior of the porch guy. Robin Dreeke, he seems extremely casual and not at all in a hurry on what we now know to be January 11. What do you make of it?
Yeah, so anytime we're doing behavioral analysis, what we really want to do is put ourselves in their shoes.
I mean, from what I understand with the way that he talks, he's not really doing the investigation that other people are.
Best of our ability, obviously, because we're not broken people like this. But we want to literally think about what they're doing, what they're seeing, and what their motive is for doing these things. What's the goal? And so being so casual says he has reps. A lot of people have said he's done this before. It's not unusual for him because he's so casual about it. But also, what do people do? I mean, all of us listening and tuning in can actually think of this. When we show up on someone's doorstep and they have a Ring cam or Nest cam.
He's like a serious worker outer too, because he brings his own towel to the gym. When you bring a towel to the gym, oh shit, what did I just do? Hold on. When you bring your own towel like that, because you're fixing to work up a sweat, you know, you're real serious about
haters are going to hate.
Or something. What do we typically hear? We hear the alarm. We hear the thing going off inside. And so, and up to 80% of home invasions, whether targeting and
what 70-year-old dude says that?
Individual or targeting property inside, they're doing scouting and reconnaissance, testing security systems, testing for things in the area, and also lingering on the doorstep. A large number of elderly people, when they live at home alone and they're trying to get back in the house, they will hide and secrete ways to get in, keys in bushes, keys under things. And so this individual most likely definitely was scouting ahead of time and most likely testing a security system and seeing who responds, how long it takes, and what their reaction will be.
Now we're also showing Feb 1.
Honestly, I just use my shirt. Like I wear like moisture wicking shirts like a normal person. And I just like wipe my face with it. That's all I do.
The early morning hours when Nancy was kidnapped, January 11 says a lot to me. You mentioned casual, calm, lingering on the doorstep.
What's up, Rod?
He's not.
Rod, good to see you, brother. How are you? And thank you for that. It's very kind of you.
At all concerned about being caught. He seems to know what he's doing. You stated that at the get-go, it was surmised he had taken part in this kind of behavior before in general, but this is telling me, Robin, that he has been on her porch before. He has seen her home before. He's not worried. I think of, here's a great example, Robin Drake, JonBenet Ramsey. That's someone everyone can recall. The culprit was not worried at all about getting caught. The culprit took their time to kick back in the family home and write about a 3-page ransom note, and they go, I don't like it. I'm going to sit right here and write another one. Not at all concerned they're going to be caught or apprehended. Why? So this guy's behavior, he's just like standing there looking at the front door. Mm-hmm. We never see him on either date run to the street, sneak up. Nothing like that is telling me he's been here and cased her home many times before.
Yeah, I totally agree. Either whether it was in daytime because he was part of some work crew or maintenance crew, or even just casually in the neighborhood at another neighbor's house, or whether this was not his first time on her front step testing this location. So that casualness, either that or his brain is completely disengaged and he's completely compartmentalization, because, you know, you got to take in all the potentialities. But yeah, I'm with you. I think he's been here before in some capacity, either daylight or nighttime.
What is it about his demeanor? I mean, you're the FBI specialist in behavioral analysis, Robin Drake. What is it about his behavior that tells you this ain't his first time at the rodeo? Nothing startles him.
If you just look at the fluidity of his movement, there's no change in the tempo. There's no change in absolutely anything. And so think about this, like we just said, if he heard an internal doorbell going off, an alarm, a chime or something, you would have seen a pause. You would have seen a startle. If there's someone out in the driveway, if there's something else going on, there would have been a pause. And also, if this was his first time at this door, there'd be apprehension, there'd be pauses, there'd be looking around, there'd be scoping things out. He seemed very fluid in all.
Let me see here. Jason, I have details on what can be done by performing digital forensics taking apart a Nest Cam. They may start asking for people's cam to perform this. And I'm looking at maybe I'll get with you on this, but either Sunday or Monday, we'll do that show where I'll have you on, and it'd be awesome to talk about it.
His motions and everything he was executing, even when bowing down to get a branch, which was like the dumbest looking thing I've ever seen. But he just seemed on mission, very, very methodical too. So this was actually planned out.
Okay, Robin Drake, here is the leap. Let's follow through your reasoning to its logical conclusion. What can I learn? What can I prove from what you're telling me? Who is he?
So I don't know if I'll stream on Tuesday or Wednesday because I got that stupid ass parole hearing.
So he's someone that I believe is at least 1 degree of separation from Nancy in some capacity whatsoever. The other thing that I think that law enforcement is doing based on these observations
at 8:30 in the morning
of his fluidity in this environment is that go to the other houses. I'm sure they're doing this, canvassing other houses. And I would do it within a 1 to 300 mile radius of this house, of this dwelling, because other ring cams should have picked up on this, because if he's done this before, it's going to be on someone else's ring cam, Nest Cam, or something like that. People need to check. When you wake up in the morning, you should be checking those things to see what happened the night before, because those are going to be the other leads. And that's how they're piecing these data points together behind the scenes that we're not seeing right now. And again, he is definitely targeting something or someone in that house.
So there was a COVID outbreak. It's a terrible thing. There was a COVID outbreak, and so now we have to do it remotely, and which is fine with me, but it's a very rigorous process. If he was like, no, get back up in bed. If I'm fine. I'm glad I don't want to go into that stupid ass prison anyway. But if he, so like, say the parole board says that like he's eligible or whatever it is, whatever they call it, that's not the end of it. It's a 120-day process that has to be signed off by a legal team, and then it goes to the governor. The governor has to sign off on it, and you can petition the governor, because anybody that's a murderer serving a life sentence has to get approval from the governor. So whatever. But I don't think he's gonna get out.
It is targeted. Well, what that is what we don't know. I'm just analyzing the sheriff's for all the controversies going around. He's been saying a lot of things, and the last thing he says that people need to be on the lookout and aware. Believe it or not, you mentioned Ramsey, as well as, if you want to even look at Elizabeth Smart. When the sheriffs are saying people need to be on the lookout, they were actually using different language than he was when being on the lookout for things. He was actually using language of a targeted burglary. Typically not a home invasion for abduction. So it's just interesting. Again, he could be way off on the things he's saying, as he has been sometimes, but it's an interesting tell.
Robin Drake, you are mentioning.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to go anywhere, to be honest with you. And I've already got a letter drawn up just in case it goes that far, but I don't think it'll go that far. Like I said, it's quite a process.
That this suggests the perp has broken in or home invaded before. What I'm asking,
but I'll fight it till the bitter end. I will fight it tooth and nail.
You now, a more refined question is, what does his behavior tell you as it relates to Nancy Guthrie? Not other instances, maybe 300 miles away, but is this a neighbor? Is this a day laborer? Is it somebody off that construction crew? They're not in a hurry. Does this suggest to you it's possible that vacant home was used as a staging area? He doesn't need a car parked out in front. He doesn't need to jump in with the wingman, the getaway driver, because he's going to walk through that backyard.
No, but that's part of so he has to, that's part of his thing where he has to sort of I guess he has to have some sort of plan, but yeah, what the hell is he going to do?
Yard. We don't see him walking up the front. So where did he come from? Did he walk through that backyard, her backstore neighbor, where the dog went crazy around 2 a.m.? Where is the vacant home?
After the parole hearing, I'll read you guys what I wrote. I think it's my Magnus. What is it? Magnum opus.
Is that why he's not in?
They'll make it that day. It'll be that day, and we'll hear it all. It's a great question.
In a hurry? He doesn't have to run into a waiting car. He can go right across the street and through the backyard. What do you make of that?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility, and that new evidence and ideas being out there is definitely something they must look at. I know it's challenging that environment because the hard packed ground and the nature of the desert, And I definitely, as we've been saying, there's some sort of connection, a personal, maybe not personal with Nancy herself, but personal with the dwelling itself, that he's been there without having that need to flee. And because there's no panic here. And that's what we're not seeing. We're not seeing any sort of panic or rushed movement. And it's just very telling.
Do I have to be in the same? No, not well. We were going to have to be until luckily there was a COVID outbreak. And stop. I don't know who's that. I don't know who that is. 60, 63, I think 64, maybe. I don't know. Something like that. Magnum opus. Okay. It's like in every, at this point, it's like in every it's like 18 months to 3 years, I guess. But he's got a life sentence. So it's 25 to life, meaning you serve minimum 25 years. And then, but you know, a lot of people that get 25 to life die in prison. So we'll see. I'm ready. I'm prepared for whatever.
Or if you already are. And
let me see. I think that's pretty much it. But Jason, I will get a hold of you. I think that's it. And we'll set that up. Nah, he's like an old, well, it's not that old, but he like walks with a cane and stuff because he's got like a bad leg. Yes, and he's bald and short. Wait, what? Gray Hughes is on this one? What do you mean? Is Gray Hughes on this episode? No, if that's the truth, I have to watch it. Yeah, I agree. It's a little much. It's because of his advanced age. It's just like a law, but I don't know. I'll show up to all of them. I'll show up to all of them. Anyway, all right, guys. I'm gonna bounce out. What is it? 12:30. It's good enough. Yeah. See. Yep. I don't think he's on this one. And I was just going to make fun of him if he was. All right, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate everything. And I will see you tomorrow, I believe. Hey, guys. And don't forget, if there's one thing that we've learned tonight,
haters are going to hate.
It's a fact. It's just a fact. I mean, I don't know. What else do you say?
Haters are going to hate. You're going to have the haters, right?
True that.
Haters are going to hate. You're going to have the haters, right? Haters are going to hate.
Case-2. In the chat for Case-2. We'll miss you, friend.